Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Private Sin Tong. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. Now, if you are able, could I please invite you to stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops at Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Alfred Richards, who died while fighting during the Boer War. Alfred Richards was born in 1879 to Alfred and Louisa Richards, who ran the Kutong Hotel in northern Victoria. Little is known about Alfred's early years. In the 1890s, the family moved to the locality of Cookadinia near present-day Holbrook in New South Wales, and his parents took up the license of the Cookadinia Hotel. Alfred's mother died in 1897. In October 1899, after worsening political deadlock in southern Africa, Boer forces invaded the British colonies of Cape Colony and Natal. Britain declared war on the two Boer republics, the Orange Free State and the Southern African Republic, also known as Transvaal. In support of the British Empire, each of the Australian colonies committed troops to the conflict. During the early months of the war, British commanders in South Africa called for more mounted infantry to be sent. These soldiers were needed in response to the nature of the fighting over the wide open veldt and against mounted Boer soldiers. Military authorities in the Australian colonies recruited volunteers with excellent horse riding, shooting, and bush skills. It was hoped that men with these skills would bring an advantage to British forces in the field. In early 1901, Richards volunteered for service in the 3rd New South Wales Mounted Rifles. After a period of training in New South Wales, the unit embarked from Sydney in March on board the transport ship British Princess. In mid-April, the men arrived in Durban in the British colony of Natal. By this time, British forces had occupied the significant towns in the Boer republics. The fighting had become a guerrilla war. Mounted Boer forces carried out raids on British outposts and lines of communication. The 3rd New South Wales Mounted Rifles joined a column of mounted British and colonial soldiers whose role was to conduct drives. These were large-scale maneuvers that aimed to trap Boer forces and livestock between the British mounted soldiers and the lines of defensive blockhouses and barbed wire that the British had erected. Richards was killed in action on the 7th of February 1902 during one of these drives near Pas de Kraal in Transvaal. Alfred Richards was one of 3 men from Germantown, now Holbrook, who had volunteered for service during the Boer War, and the only one to die as a result of service. After the news of his death reached home, the people of the town subscribed money to erect a monument in his memory. Trooper Alfred Richards is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 600 Australians who died while serving in the Boer War. A photograph of his memorial plaque is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Alfred Richards, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant